You know, I did say that even though I hate Twilight Access, I'd still buy it if they made it. So let's put it on the shelf. What the hell is that?
It's morphin' time.
Special shout out to our brand new channel members, Spin-54, Psycho O's, Dr. Grid, Super Shaddix Boom, Faran, Room Without a Window, and Master Ben 95. In addition to our Sound Squadron captains, Infinity War-Torn, Don Don Ranger Power, JoJo Star, Damie's World, Tom Man 256 Productions, Infinite 1985, Scrublord Gaming, Toku Texas Cosplay, Aiden Reynosa, Christian Alejandro Saltos Valencia, Smith the Crow, Kyle, MJ Klein, and Oma Ender Prime. Thank you all so much for your support, and if you'd like to join, hit the join button down below. Hello, this is Soundout here, and in today's video, we're posing the question, what happened to Nozomi Entertainment's Gundam Blu-rays? Because the recent releases left a lot of people asking the question, what happened to their releases? And we're going to be discussing kind of a broad sense. We're not going to go into like the details of every single release. That would be something reserved for something like a home video history like I've done for Sonic or Digimon. And I will probably do one on Gundam in the future. That's kind of a big project because Gundam has had a lot of home video releases in North America. So we're not going to be going release by release, but this is kind of to give you a broad overview of the topic and then kind of see if we can answer that question. So let's go over the broad overview. Why did Nozomi Entertainment even start making Gundam Blu-rays? Well, they didn't start with Blu-rays. So back in 2012, Bandai Entertainment, who at the time was the only license holder for Gundam North American DVD and VHS releases, and some Blu-ray, they went out of business. Bandai closed the Bandai Entertainment division, and so releases like the Gundam 00 set I have here were out of print, and they started to become harder and harder to find. And so for years, people were wondering if we'd ever see Gundam on disc again. Gundam was kind of in a downswing. Bandai had distributed the Gundam Unicorn OVA at the time, and it had sort of been kind of a weird system where they released at the same time as Japan, so it cost the same as Japan. And there was a Right Stuff distributed release by Honey Maze of Gundam Unicorn on 4 volumes that was starting to circulate, giving hope that there would be new releases for Gundam in the future. So then it was announced that Nozomi Entertainment, which was the publishing arm of Right Stuff was primarily a store for selling anime, manga, figures, that sort of thing, but they had a publishing arm where they started licensing titles and releasing discs themselves, and they got the full library of Gundam. And it was a partnership with Sunrise, so it wasn't like Sunrise was just dropping stuff off and telling them to get on their way. They actually were working with Sunrise. And their first release came in 2015 with Turn A Gundam on DVD. Now this was quite the release because Bandai Entertainment had originally planned to release Turn A Gundam before their closure canceled those plans. And so what's nice is they did finally release Turn A Gundam on North American home video, and it was a very nice DVD set. As far as DVD sets go, this one was really, really high quality. And for a show that was made in 2000, it kind of, fits being DVD. But a lot of people had the question of what about Blu-ray? And so that kind of became the transition point. We went from this to Blu-rays for the original Gundam, and then we started getting Blu-rays for everything that could have Blu-rays, with some things like Gundam X had a DVD, and then the Blu-ray remaster happened in Japan, then we got the Blu-ray here. But again, that's kind of getting into the history stuff. But in 2015, they came out with Turn A Gundam. And with Volume 1 hitting in June of 2015, and Volume 2 hitting in August of 2015, with the movies following in November of 2015, Nozomi was quite on a roll. And that's kind of how they went for the next several years, essentially becoming the Gundam license holder. And even though there was things like Iron-Blooded Orphans that was licensed by Funimation, Nozomi was like the primary releasing Gundam. They weren't dubbing things that hadn't been dubbed, like Turn A Gundam was a sub-only release because Bandai wasn't paying for a dub to be produced. There, was a lot of stuff going on with how certain things came to be. They couldn't release it on Blu-ray if it didn't have a Blu-ray in Japan, that sort of thing. But when it came down to it, what I found really great about it was that every couple months you were getting new Gundam releases, and they started chugging through them. Eventually they did the Gundam Wing Ultra Edition, which was kind of a big deal because it wasn't just a Blu-ray release of Wing, but had a bunch of bonuses and extras. And they started doing that for 00, for G, for Seed and Seed Destiny. But in between those bigger releases, they would be throwing out shows like Gundam X or, different things like the Build series. They did Build Fighters and all that. And so we have a majority of Gundam on Blu-ray and, one DVD that doesn't have a Blu-ray for North America through this one company, which was pretty amazing. And the nice part too about Nozomi was that they kept people informed. Not only did they make announcements at panels and on social media, if you ask questions on social media about like, oh, why isn't Gundam X a Blu-ray? And they're like, oh, it's because Sunrise has to do a Blu-ray first. We can only do it as DVD. And then, if a Blu-ray master comes out in Japan, we could get it to do a Blu-ray later, which is what happened. Or the one time I asked if the Gundam Unicorn DVDs that were released by Honey Maze were going to be the only thing, or if Nozomi could release them as well. And they said that at the time, that was, they weren't allowed to release this show currently, but later on we did get a Blu-ray set from Nozomi. And in general, there was some really smart stuff that came up with these releases, like Gundam The Origin was packed with 4 OVAs in one volume and 2 in another. So it wasn't just having to follow the Japanese releases so specifically. In addition to the high quality releases, there was a high quality price tag. They weren't always the cheapest releases, but that just kind of came with the quality. It's just the territory of anime Blu-rays, but I will say that they were more affordable than, say, stuff from Funimation, where you could get 26 episodes of Gundam for the price of 13 episodes of a current running anime. So that's kind of how it goes. And in general, subtitle quality was great, video audio quality was good. There were some weird hiccups with some of the licensing, like they couldn't always get an English dub, like for the Gundam movie trilogy, we just got the Japanese. But in general, I felt like as a Gundam fan, I wanted to keep supporting the releases, and they were really good. And the biggest thing that they worked on was the Seed and Seed Destiny Ultra editions, which are incredible, but did take a lot of work, and it did sort of derail plans to release anything else, because they kind of boiled it down to those were the last 2 major Gundam shows they hadn't released yet, and they took a lot of work on them with the SD Blu-ray, with getting the broadcast HD, and then finding out that there was the Blu-ray HD and that Sunrise sent them the wrong master after the set came out, and they went through and corrected every single disc in that Seed Ultra edition. That was the kind of stuff that Nozomi did, and the fact that they communicated all this to the audience and said, hey, we hear you, we're working on this, etc., was really great, because you don't always get that communication from studios releasing things you love. And then it kind of got weird, because after they finished the Big Seed project, the only releases that were coming out were re-releases of the Seed project, because essentially like they did with Wing, 00, and G, they did the Ultra Edition first, then they did single volume releases for general retail. And so what they did with Seed is that they eventually released all the volumes out there, except for the SD version, which stayed exclusive to the Ultra Edition. I've covered those in videos. We don't really have to go into that here. But there was some discrepancy with this. Because of the replacement disc issue, the Seed Ultra Edition came out in 2020, and then in 2022 was when the retail release happened. And then for Seed Destiny, it came out in 2021 in Ultra, and then regular in 2022, with Stargazer coming in early 2023. But the question that a lot of Gundam fans had was, is that it? Because for a while after the Big Seed project, there wasn't any new announcements. There was some little things that they threw out, and while they had covered all the main TV series of Gundam, the question was asked, what about SD Gundam? To which they didn't really have a reply. They didn't say yes or no to SD Gundam, but an SD Gundam Blu-ray box coming out in Japan seemed to give us a sign that maybe there'd be SD Gundam stuff. What about some of the weird side things like Gunpla Builders Beginning G or Twilight Axis? And so in July of 2022 at Anime Expo, they had a panel where they announced that coming to Blu-ray would be Twilight Axis and SD Gundam Brave Battle Warriors. And that was a big announcement, because we finally got confirmation, yes, we're getting SD Gundam, and yes, we're finally getting new Gundam Blu-rays. And then Crunchyroll bought Right Stuff a month later, and everything went radio silent again. And this is kind of the deviation point where things sort of start to go wrong, just in general. Crunchyroll purchased Right Stuff in late 2022, and as of this recording in January 2023, it's been a couple months since the Right Stuff and Crunchyroll store merged into one being, and I have had the worst experience with every single one of my orders so far, because the customer service quality that Right Stuff had no longer exists at Crunchyroll store. I can't even get them to process orders correctly, and that's probably why this video was delayed even further, because the newest Gundam releases came out in November. I got them in late December because it took them 45 days to respond to my email about a processing issue that shouldn't have happened. But ultimately, what did release was Gundam Twilight Axis, Gunpla Builders Beginning G, and Gundam-San. These are 3 weird releases, but hey, Twilight Axis is a Universal Century title, which people did want to fill out the collection. I even said so myself in my Seed Destiny Ultra Edition. Gunpla Beginner's Building G is like the prototype for the Build Fighters series, and it does kind of add to the collection. And then Gundam-San is the weirdest comedy anime series you've ever seen, and it's very bizarre this even got an official release. But these 3 releases were originally announced back in July 2022, and they were supposed to come out in May of 2023. May became August, August became October, October became November, except they never updated anybody that October became November because of the whole store merger thing, leaving a lot of people who ordered these to ask the question, what's happening with my order if it's going to another store? And for me, that meant a 45-day delay even getting a response to process the order, and then 2 more weeks after that. And the other problem that comes up with these releases is not only do we have to wait kind of an insanely long time for what is ultimately 53 minutes, 27 minutes, and 41 minutes, is that we don't know what's happening with that SD Gundam Brave Battle Warriors they announced. We don't know what's happening with, we didn't even know what's happening with the delays. There's been 0 communication from Nozomi besides, oh, you can order our stuff on Crunchyroll store, which is just kind of sad. Like, it's been months since they posted on their Twitter account. They don't update their website. What the heck happened? Corporate mergers. The Crunchyroll buyout of Right Stuff, I can say personally, I think is an absolute disaster. It not only has caused problems on a customer side, but it has caused problems, I think, with the industry itself. Right Stuff was the distributor of North American anime releases, and there is nobody else that did it like them. And now that Sony/Crunchyroll owns them, they own like the biggest streaming, they own the biggest web store, and they own Funimation, who is one of the biggest disc producers before they don't even release that much anymore. And so we're kind of at a point where the North American anime market has sort of homogenized into one giant blob with some outliers like Discotek Media or Sentai Filmworks or Viz. And Viz is more of manga than anime. And so what we've seen is a shift in the industry. And unfortunately, one of the victims of that is the Nozomi releases, because I kind of don't have any confidence that they're going to release that SD Gundam Brave Battle Warriors set, nor any of the other SD Gundam stuff, or things like Gundam Witch from Mercury, since now everything's under one banner. I mean, is any of that going to come out? Because it took so long to release what is not even 3 hours of content. And the quality of the spine art is something to be talked about, which it's going to sound petty, but boy, is this the dumbest freaking spines I've seen. Let's take a closer look. Now, I do want to make clear before we talk about the spine art that I do think all 3 of these releases are really good. Twilight Axis was a sort of web series that was converted into a short movie to be released with the second Thunderbolt film. It's 27 minutes, it's Japanese with English subtitles. It's presented as well as it can be, because this is not one of the well-regarded or well-loved or well-animated Gundam series. In fact, it's, my least favorite Gundam production, personally speaking. I got it to fill a space on the shelf, but the release itself is pretty good. Similar story for Gunpla Beginner's Building G, except I, like Beginning G. This is kind of a prototype to the Gundam Build Fighter series. There's Gunpla, there's Building, there's all kinds of that stuff. It is 41 minutes. It's a 3-part special. It's all combined as one solid thing, which is how it was released in Japan on home video. And it looks really good. It's got good videos. It's got good audio. It's Japanese only with English subtitles, which makes sense. It's a nice release as well. And then Gundam-San is this really wacky, weird comedy series. It's based on a 4-panel comedy manga that's a parody of the original Gundam series. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised we even got this. It is 19 episodes, 53 minutes. They are really short episodes, all in one disc, Japanese with English subtitles. And it looks good. It sounds good. I'm kind of, still amazed we even have Gundam-San as an official Blu-ray release. Also of note with all of these, it does still say Sunrise Right Stuff on all of them. You can see Sunrise and Right Stuff. You don't see any Crunchyroll logos anywhere here. So it makes me wonder why so long after the Crunchyroll buyout did these take. But these 3 releases as releases are good. Now, in terms of putting them on your shelf with the rest of your collection, that's where I'm going to nitpick, but it is kind of a problem since I talk about this a lot on the channel. Spines are the thing you look at 90% of the time owning discs. And so I'm, again, incredibly grateful to have these releases on disc. I'm amazed they even came out, but I do have a problem with how they look on the shelf. So I figured before we put the new releases on the shelf, let's get a litmus test of how the spines have looked so far. By no means are they like the same design across the board, but there is a bit of consistency to the formatting. You have an image of a mobile suit or character, the series logo, the volume number, and then the Blu-ray logo. Sunrise Blu-ray, Sunrise Blu-ray. You can see that sometimes they don't line up evenly, like the Gundam movie trilogy doesn't line up to the series, but you can see how the origin volumes match each other pretty nicely. And then there's some weird exceptions like the Gundam 0080 Blu-ray. The DVD had this formatting of like mobile suit and title, but because this has a wraparound cover, it sort of got interrupted. Then there is some weird things like Thunderbolt December Sky having a black case, but that was because they were trying to get black cases, and then, you know, they couldn't for some of them, like Bandit Flower. But for the most part, you have this consistent, unifying, you know, Sunrise logo across the board. Things like G Gundam had a bit of a larger mobile suit, and they put the number up here, and it's not the logo of the series, but this kind of like fighter font. But you can see that Wing, even including its Ultra Edition, kept the same formatting. So for the most part, each series keeps its formatting. Like, you know, Gundam X there, looking really, really nice. And that was a later Blu-ray than G, but you see it kind of keeps it. But one of the coolest things, you have the Sunrise logo along the top, Blu-ray logo along the bottom. Moving over here to the other side of the shelf, you know, you can see the Turn A again, just like the Gundam movie trilogy, not exactly matching. You know, this was here. I forgot to mention it, but the Zeta movie trilogy also doesn't match. So the point is that consistency isn't 100%, but it has a specific style to it. I don't know what the spines look like for the retail release of Seed and Seed Destiny, because these are the Ultra Edition Blu-rays just put on the shelf. But I don't know if those are different, but they took away the at least on the Ultra Edition covers, they don't have the character portrait. But for the most part, it works. One of the ones I kind of like have a little bit of a problem with is, you know, you have the, I'm very glad because this came out way after Build Fighters Try, but you can see the consistency of the special build disc. Build Divers, a little bit bigger of an image. Divers Re-Rise has a much bigger image, but it still has a similar formatting, so it looks consistent. Same with Gundam Evolve, which, real quick, this is the only DVD that Nozomi released that did not get a Blu-ray, and I think it just can't be Blu-rayed. It was, you know, early 2000s CG animation. These are Bandai Entertainment releases that I've just added for posterity. So anyways, the point I wanted to make is that if you look over here at Universal Century, yeah, narrative, yeah, 0080, but they still have this consistent formatting. So then with good old Twilight Axis, what the hell happened here? First of all, the Sunrise logo's on the bottom instead of the top. The Blu-ray logo's up here. And then why is the title written backwards? If you can tell, I own a lot of Blu-rays, in case you're spending time on the channel for the first time. Everything is oriented so that you read it, you know, top to bottom, you know, sideways like this, right? Like it's top to bottom because that way it looks natural. Sometimes you get things like Zayram or Garo here where they're flipped. Why is it bottom to top on the title for Twilight Axis? It's like this was flipped backwards, but because these are oriented correctly, you know, like the actual logos are the correct orientation, it looks like it's upside down, essentially, with the logos flipped. And that just looks stupid, if I'm being honest. This goes between Unicorn and Narrative. So let's see. Yeah, see, it sticks out like a sore thumb. You know, even the Gundam Seed sets don't stick out as much because you have, like, the titles running in the wrong direction because the Blu-ray logo's up here instead of down here. There is consistency in where the Blu-ray and the Sunrise logos are placed. Why is this one backwards? Now, what of Gunpla Beginners Building G, which is probably my favorite of these three things media-wise? That one's better. See, you've got the beginning Gundam, you got the title, you got the Blu-ray and Sunrise logos in the right place. So if you put this right here as like before your Build Fighters, you know, it kind of bookends with these little bit larger images, but it still has that same, you know, Sunrise Blu-ray. It matches the style and the format. And then I don't know where to place Gundam-San, it's the comedy series. What do we got here? And it's an upside down title again. The Blu-ray logo and the Sunrise logo are in the right place. So if you put it here, it doesn't look too off, except for the fact that the title is running bottom to top instead of top to bottom. I don't know why that happened. Because the thing is, and this is what blows my mind too, these three releases were sold in a bundle together because they're supposed to come out at the exact same time. Why do we have three different spine designs, right? Why is it that Builders Beginning G has this? Why is this not, you know, flipped the correct orientation and then there's like a picture of Char? Why is this, you know, even if this doesn't have a character art, why is the Blu-ray and the Sunrise logos upside down? And so that's the thing, is that it's not so much that this is like horrible, this is like the worst thing that ever happened, oh my gosh, it ruins the releases, But it's making me kind of uncomfortable to look at the shelf because you sort of got, like, again, even with Gundam-San being flipped upside down, there is this consistency, and then there's that. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And the only reason I'm complaining about this is because look at how consistent this shelf has been from Nozomi. They've done so good at keeping a consistent formatting to their Blu-rays. Why is this one upside down? Why are the logos flipped? You know, again, I don't have as much problem. It's weird to flip a logo that way just for reading things. But like, at least, you know, the consistency of the Sunrise logo on top and the, you know, Blu-ray logo on the bottom, this just sticks out to me because of that logo flip. And I'm tempted to just print my own cover at this point. And it's so sloppy for what a company that has done a great job at, even though every series looks a little different, there is consistency across the board. And then there's this. And you know what? It's also the fact that the quality of Twilight Access doesn't match pretty much most of Gundam. And it sucks. I don't have any other way of putting it. It just bums me out because I only bought Twilight Access because I wanted to put it in the collection to just kind of complete the collection. And it looks completely out of place. So ultimately, after waiting so long for these, they weren't really worth the wait in terms of the collection display. All 3 discs are still good. Subs are good. They have all the material in them. They're good video, audio, picture quality. But man, finally adding these to the collection, and they look so out of place. Gunpla Builders Beginning G gets a pass because I think that kind of fits. But why the heck are these essentially printed upside down on the spines? Like, nobody does Blu-ray spines like that. There is a certain orientation to how you do text on a Blu-ray spine, and this isn't it. And I don't know why Twilight Access has the Sunrise and Blu-ray logos flipped. Anyways, it took forever to get these, and I hope that, you know, corporate, you know, restructuring is the reason why stuff's been delayed. Because I really hope these aren't the last Nozomi Gundam Blu-rays, because there's still stuff to do. There's still SD Gundam. You know, I don't know if Gundam Evolve will ever come out on Blu-ray, you know, that kind of thing. But I would love to see the other build material, build reel, build batlog stuff that came out since. Witch from Mercury is a big gap in the collection. Hathaway just has no release, but that may be Netflix. Doan's Island, what happened to that? Like, Crunchyroll has the distribution rights for streaming. Why can't we get a Blu-ray from Nozomi? You know, like, what was the point of Crunchyroll merging with Funimation and then that buying right stuff, if not to release more things easily? Like, it feels like ever since Sony started their, like, anime buy-up spree, it's reduced the output of Funimation stuff, it's reduced the output of Crunchyroll, it's reduced the output of Nozomi titles, and, you know, now there's, you know, they've merged right stuff into Crunchyroll into one store, and it's just a disaster, and it's kind of a bummer, you know? And I don't think we'll ever, I mean, there's no, yeah, you know, Witch from Mercury is the only Gundam series I think is big enough to deserve an Ultra Edition, but I don't feel like we're going to get it. Considering it took this long it took a year and a half to get less than 3 hours of stuff that, yeah, it needed new subs for all of this, but like, they're not that long, you know? And so how long would it take to do Witch from Mercury, even if the subs exist and there's a dub that exists? Like, you know, I don't know. I hope we see more. And I think that's ultimately what the end of the day is. But to answer the question that we started the video with, what happened to the Nozomi Gundam Blu-rays? And the real answer is corporate mergers, like a lot of things that have gone wrong lately. So that's it for the video. I know it's not kind of like an upbeat note to end on, but I felt like this was an important topic to talk about. Like I said, I do kind of hope to do a Gundam home video history video in the future, so please leave a comment. Tell me if that's something you want to see. I'll go over everything from like the old VHSs all the way up to today. With the low output of Gundam Blu-rays currently, that might be super easy to have an endpoint. But let me know. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this. Hit subscribe and the notification bell for future videos that are definitely more uplifting than this. And stay tuned for more Gundam videos on the channel. I have kind of got some ideas, things brewing in the works. If you'd like to help support the channel directly, consider joining as a channel member down below in the join button. You can also find us on Discord, where we have a Discord server to talk about all kinds of stuff, including Blu-rays and anime and Gundam. You can also check out my Monday live streams here on the channel at 5 p.m. Eastern. And of course, you can find me on social media at Soundout12 across various platforms. My awesome graphic designer is on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for anime news, interviews, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.